We are there.
Awesome.
I'm so excited. I was just mentioning that I do not want to be center stage. I want Mr. Brown to be center stage, sharing his
Good
amazing
evening, everyone.
story. But I will give a little bit of his background for
Good evening.
those of you who do not know him. He is the president and CEO of System 5 Electronics. It is the largest African American owned and operated security alarm and monitoring company in the state of Georgia. His accolades are great. So I just want to highlight a few of them. System 5 Electronics was incorporated in 1989. They have the newest technology and they are really working to create safety devices for residential properties and commercial properties. He has a host of different clients. The list again is extensive, but just to name a few: American Family Insurance, Allstate Insurance, AT&T retail stores, Rolling Out Magazine, barbecue and seafood, Hurt and Hurt, McDonald's. Again, the list is extensive. He is a respected entrepreneur in Atlanta. He's been recognized for his business acumen and leadership, his philanthropy. Again, just a wealth of information he has. He's been recognized by the Atlanta Business League, Business Hall of Fame inductee, and he received an invitation from President Jimmy Carter and was bestowed the honor to serve on the board of counselor for the Carter Center. So I don't want to take too much more time. I would love him to share with us a little bit also about Maceo's kids. Excited to learn about that. He just on a personal level, he and I spoke for a good period of time. I feel like I met a new friend, and I just loved hearing his story about his journey from where he started to where he is today, but also his philanthropy and his thought process. So with that, Mr. Brown, I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be here today. Indeed, God has been good throughout my whole life, and I contribute a lot to that to my parents. When we were kids, my mother she was a Seventh-day Adventist, so we went to church on Saturday, and my father was a Baptist, so we went to church on Sunday, and then we had to go to Bible study every Wednesday. So, I have a great, strong belief in God and the power that goes with that. So I like to tell a little bit about my childhood. My father's from Virginia, and we was actually considered as free slaves when I got a chance to visit my grandfather on my father's side, where they had 280 acres. We actually came from President Tyler. From what my understanding is, he is my great grandfather. And on my mother's side, she was from Augusta, Georgia. And in her area, they lived in shotgun houses, and everything was red clay dirt. So I always remember when I go there to visit my grandmother on my mother's side, my grandmama used to always say, "We're gonna wait till the black guy comes down the street that's selling the cubes of ice, and we're gonna buy from him, as opposed to buying the ice from the white gentleman that comes down the street." So she kind of instilled a lot into me about the importance of us supporting one another as a child, and I watched a lot of TV, and during those days, Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King and the struggle that was going through, and the kids sitting in the lunch counters, and it kind of had me a little worried, what my life was going to be like, because I graduated from Turner High School, and there was only one white person that was in our school, a female, and so we didn't really have a chance to have a lot of mixture of other nationalities that was inside of our school. But my godfather played a big role. He had a corner store in Vine City, Maceo Newberry, and I was named after him. And I worked for him in the summertime. And, he taught me how to stock the shelves and how to count the inventory coming in and look at the date codes and try to move things around to position that. So I was very proud of him. He was a Morehouse graduate, and he had his shop there in Vine City, and upstairs he had rooming boards where he rented out different homes to people that was inside the community. And then from there, I started working in underground Atlanta in Bennica Bay, where I learned how to do seafood, and that was George Jackson, who lived across the street. So everybody kind of looked out for each other back in those days during the struggle, and looking at the kids in the lunch counter when they poured the sugar over their heads, and everything that these people went through to make us free, to get us where we are. And in 1974, I graduated from Turner High School. Wasn't college bound, wasn't considered a college material. I didn't really know what I was going to be. And my brother went to the Navy, and then the opportunity came about from the IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, to become an electrician. And my brother, he joined that, and then I came after him the next following year. And I think the legislation was already written 10 years earlier to allow African Americans to start learning the trade jobs, the plumbing, electrical, carpentry, heating and air. The government held that back for over 10 years before the labor unions decided to bring us on board. I'll never forget when I went into the interview process, they had these little boards on the table. You had to put a star in there, and you had to put a square here, and you had to put a rectangle in this block. And they wanted to see if we could comprehend. I guess white America really didn't know what were they to expect from seeing us as African Americans and just seeing where we are. But, you know, lucky for me, I was around an area where a lot of people worked on cars, and, you know, we did everything inside of our community. So I was very mechanically inclined. And so I went through it very quickly. And I remember starting there when I walked on the job site, and I had my 2 pallets and a lunch box. And, you know, I felt really proud going on the job site. All of the older African Americans that was there, you know, was very impressed because they were seeing times were changing. And they was actually seeing, okay, here we are, the new generation of African Americans now doing the jobs that they was not allowed to do. They was only allowed to sweep the floors or mix the mortar or stack the bricks or what have you. And now we're changing that situation. So, you know, when going through that piece there, then I met the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan in my 4th year. I didn't know I was in school with him, but somebody had wrote something on the wall, the N-word, telling me to go home. And then I went back into class and told my teacher very politely, you know, I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. And whoever wrote that on the wall, they've got to get used to Maceo. I'm going to be here. So I was very well accepted through Mr. Paul Wiley, who was my supervisor. And he made sure that I had the teaching of all of the areas in the electrical program, you know, from doing the structural, doing the running the conduit, to hooking up the bus ducts, to hooking up the transformers, to calculating loads off the circuitry, and how many lights goes on a circuit, and how many lights goes, you know, different type of load calculation. So, you know, I was fortunate in the end to be able to run the Atlanta Falcons Training Center. I did WW Electric. I did a rap bunch in middle school with the first solar panels. So I did some great things. I was not nominated Apprentice of the Year. You know, in the end, they gave it to someone else that was not of my nationality. And I remember Mr. Wilder stood up and said, you know, we got to recognize Maceo Brown. I think he was one of the best electricians to come through this program. But I wasn't really concerned. I didn't think that they were going to give it to me based on my color of my skin. So I was happy with that. And so I went on to do what I was doing and continue to work and learn the trade, because my father always said, you know, when you learn the trade, there is no glass ceiling. So, you know, the sky's the limit. He said, once you learn these trades, and you can go as high as you want to go. So I started bringing Mr. Wiley into the Black community and changing out these circuit breakers throughout the community. And he started teaching me how to do that. And then in less than 6 months, I told my brother, I said, hey, we could do this type of work. And so we started wiring up Cisco's, Wild Cherries, Bunkies, all of these nightclubs that was inside the community. We started wiring up all these buildings, and we started making some real money. Then I realized just how much money is being made in the construction field. Because as we know, 80% of our kids are not going to college, 20% are going to college, but the construction is where the real money is. And the construction teaches you how to do budgets, it teaches you finance, and it teaches you how to do job costs. It's so much learning that you learn in construction that would enable you to go out and start a business at some point in time. So in 1985, I heard the message from Louis Farrakhan, Power at Last. And so I got that message from him, and I sat there and I took my mother there to hear him. And we sat on the 3rd row at the theater there. And I'll never forget that when we got through with that speech, you know, the impression was that there was a people that was going to come into bondage, you know, 130 years. And those people is actually us as African Americans. We were going to be taken out of bondage, and we were going to be actually free to actually do what we needed to do. And so I went back the next day and I quit my job. And they said, "You quitting a job? You're making over 65,000 a year." And back then that was good money. I said, "Well, God has spoken, and I'm going to start my own business." So I took my home and I converted it over. I sold my Cadillac and I bought a pickup truck. And from that point, I took 7 kids out of high school that was not college bound, and I started teaching them the trade jobs. Now, when I was a kid, I always aligned myself with people that was at least 10 years older than me, because I felt that I could learn more from a person who's much older than me than someone of my age. And so I watched a lot of the pitfalls of people going through what they was going through. I noticed that the college kids, the high school kids, once they graduate, the credit card companies would send out all these credit cards, and then they would bombard them with credit cards, hoping that they would use the credit cards and mess up their credit, and then they would have bad credit. So I said, you know what, I'm going to learn from this. And the moment I start receiving these credit cards, I spoke to my father about it, and he says, "Yeah, son, go ahead and take those credit cards, use those credit cards, but pay them off within 30 days. So every time I would go and purchase something, I would pay off the credit card in 30 days. And then my credit score kept going up. I would take another credit card, I would pay for something, and I would pay it off in 30 days. I would pay for something, I would pay it off in 30 days. So the moment I get ready to start my business, my mother was so proud. She created a flyer and she circulated throughout the community, because, back then you can hang a ceiling fan for $65, $70 per ceiling fan. And I could do it in less than 30 minutes. So I started teaching these kids how to do ceiling fans and how to troubleshoot. And then I started buying vans from the Chevrolet dealership by using my credit card and the credit, because I had perfect credit. So they allowed me to buy my first truck. I turned around and bought the second truck. Now, when I turned my home into a business, what I meant by that is my living room became a meeting room. My dining room became a conference and a scheduling room. I took one of my bedrooms and I turned it into an office. I turned my back porch into a storage room. I turned my garage into a classroom. And I took the same books that I learned out of IBEW and I started teaching the kids the electrical program. Then I went into the community and met Marion Woods Jackson, because African Americans there was making a change. It's like Minister Farrakhan said, power at last. So we started entering into the construction field. So I met Tom Cordy, who did over 300 and some houses, Marion Jackson, who did 400 and something high end. I went into Guilford Forest and met Mr. Terry Brantley, who was doing $1 million houses. And I would take these kids, there was 7 of us, and we would get out of those trucks, and I would have each one of them trained in a particular area, and we would wire up a house in less than a day and a half. And we would come out of there fully wiring these houses, and these contracts was $5,000 or $6,000 a contract. And every time I would go to my supplier and buy goods from my supplier, I would make sure I pay those off within the 30 days of the credit cards. Then I got smarter. Then I said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to use credit cards that has rewards points. So I would get a credit card that had Delta, or I would get a credit card that had a Marriott or Hilton or what have you. So now I'm creating points, with the credit cards. I was very smart in how to use the technology. So when the phones first came out, the wireless phones, they was in a little box. They were made by Motorola. I bought one of the first wireless phones, and I could actually operate from the field, inside the field. So I could pick up my phone, I could place my orders, I can have the orders ready for me to go pick it up. I utilize the technology. A lot of people see me in the Red Lobster having lunch on this box phone. They thought I was a drug dealer or whatever, but I was a businessman. I was in there trying to make a difference, because, when I was in school in the 8th grade, I carried a briefcase, and a lot of people kidded me about that briefcase. And I said, one day I'm going to be a business owner. And I carried this briefcase to work. So, I learned from the Bible again, as a man thinketh, so is he. So, you learn all these spiritual things that comes out, and you really implement them when you move forward in life, And so from moving from that right there, I built my company. Then I met Mr. Bronner. I walked up the street where I lived in the Mosley Park area. There was a fire damaged building, and it sat there. And I said, I have outgrown my home, because I had 6 or 7 trucks parked up and down the street. And people were saying, wow, Maceo, you're doing really good. And I said, I got to move out of my home now. I got to get myself positioned into a building. And there was a fire damaged building up the street. It was owned by Mr. Bronner. And so me and my wife, we approached Mr. Bronner, and he said, well, write a business plan. There again, I didn't go to college. I didn't know anything about a business plan. I knew how to put a job in on time and make it profitable. That was my skill set. So my wife computerized my business. She came in from Costa Rica, and she came in and computerized my business into where everything was inventory, job costs, everything was in the system. We were paying people to payroll. Everything was inside of our systems. And so it elevated me much faster, to move much faster, to push my company, because I had got out of the things that was most of us get tied up into. We start making money, we go and buy a new car, we go out and buy a beautiful big home. I was very conservative. I didn't wear the expensive pants or expensive shirts or tennis shoes. I put every bit of my money back into the business to grow the business. So in the first year, we did over $600,000. And then on the second year, we was over $1 million in sales. Now, I went through 3 recessions because the Reagan administration came in. And what happened there is the economy tanked. And I was already set up at least 5 years in running my electrical business. And I said, Maceo, what are you going to do now? So I met this gentleman by the name of Chip Oliver, and he was putting in intercom systems, running cables, and putting in alarm systems. So I picked up a scrap piece of paper off the ground, and I said, tell me a little bit about these alarm systems and this low voltage, because I had a class 1, class 2 master license. So that means I could do whatever type of jobs that I wanted to do based on my licenses and graduating from the IBEW. And so he says, you know what, we monitor these homes. The call center is going to charge you somewhere between $6, $7 a month, and you can charge the end user between $18 to $19 a month to do the monitoring. So I sat down on a piece of paper. I said, if I have 50 homes, then how much money would I make? If I have 100 homes, how much money would I make? If I had 200 homes, how much money would I make? Then I said, you know what? I'm getting ready to enter into a recession-proof business. So I said, this is going to be really great. So I sold all my assets from Brown Electric, sold them over to System 5 Electronics, came up with the new name. My wife did the logo and everything, and then moved everything back over, went back to the same customers that I had wired at least over thousands and thousands of homes I had already wired. I went back to those same customers because relationships is everything in business. If you don't have a great relationship and you're not honest with the customer, and you're not giving them that trust to know that you are going to do the right thing every single time, you're able to go back to them and say, hey, now I'm in the security business. That's when Rollins had the market. And Rollins had a round sign with the address at the bottom. Ackerman was out there, and ADT. And so I said, you know what? I'm getting ready to break into a business that there are no African Americans. So I punctured into that area, went to the Bergen Fire Alarm Association, joined that organization. I was the only African American in the room. There again, when I went through the IBEW, I experienced the same thing. So I said, this is going to be something I'm going to really do. And watching as a child to see the struggles as us going through as African Americans, I said, I've got to do something to help as many blacks as possible. So when I talked about 85, when I quit my job, started my business, that was the purpose of me saying, I'm going to create jobs inside of my community. So I was really forced in saying, that was my passion. And I tell people, when you start a business, you got to have a passion to do something. That means you're going to be the first one there. You're going to be the last one to leave. And you're going to be motivated to make something happen. But you got to motivate the group of people that you have around you. You have to teach them something. I had 3 of my young men that actually left me and started their own business. And I congratulated them on that. And I continue to bring in new technicians that I could train. But it helped to compel me to where I am now. I ran into a little problem when I did Sharon McSwain. I did John Whelan Homes. I did all of these major builders that I was working with. And I'll never forget the incident that I had at John Whelan Homes when I started in Regency Park, because they was now infiltrating out of the black community and bringing in high-end homes because they knew Black America had money. And they said, oh, we're going to get into this business. We're going to start buying up the land because we see the black builders are doing very well. Now we're going to enter into these communities. And I met a guy by the name of Mark Lismeyer, and that's how I started learning how to play golf, because I realized everything was done on the golf course. All the deals was on the golf course. I said, okay, let me go ahead and get in there. And then one of the gentlemen who started, he was a black builder. So he allowed me to come out there and start wiring up the homes. Then the white gentleman showed up and he says, you know what, Maceo, unfortunately, we're going to let you go and we're going to bring Brinks in. I said, what do you mean you're going to bring Brinks in? Well, we've always used Brinks. I said, well, that's not going to happen over here today. I said, so I went back into the community and talked to the people in the neighborhood and told them what was going on. Everybody put for sale signs inside their yards. And then that basically shut down the operation. Then I got a call from Mr. Whelan and said, Maceo, we want to bring you back in and we're going to give you 10 of our subdivisions that are in the African-American community. And then that happened with Torrey Homes and all the other ones. I hired on the sales team. I bought them all company cars. And then we just propelled from there. And when I look back, I just see, wow, what has happened. And then after I outgrew the building at 2800 at 1761 Ralph David Avenue. If you might have saw my sign, you can see it off of I-20. I said at that point in time, I've got to do something different. So I put together 3 other investors, and we all put $50,000 in a pot. We started buying commercial land. And then we ran into this land at 2820 Camden Road, 30,000 square feet. I said, let's all go in and we're going to buy this land and see if we can flip it. And then we all purchased the land. We had 4 people that actually buy into the land. One of them gave us $200,000, another gave us $30,000. But once you go to the bank and you didn't qualify for the loan, you would lose your earnest money. So we started making money off of earnest money that people would lose because they couldn't obtain financing. And at that point, then 2 of my partners dropped out because the economy popped again. And once the economy popped again, they was builders. And then they jumped out of it, and then we ended up buying them out. So once I started going on that, then I said, you know what? I'm going to start giving back. So I started my nonprofit called Maceo's Kids, mentoring aspiring CEOs. And I started teaching these kids to trade jobs, electrical, plumbing, carpentry, heating, and air. And what I learned is at an early age, if you can catch a child between 6 and 12 and teach them a trade job, then they understand why I need to learn what I need to learn in school. Because if you go back to the school system now, when I came up in elementary school, they was teaching wood tech, culinary art. They was teaching automobile mechanics. They was teaching band. I tell every parent that you have, let your kid learn how to play an instrument. It teaches them discipline, when to play, when not to play. It gives them a whole lot of a better upbringing with these classes. And then white America, like I said, when I met the Grand Dragon and Ku Klux Klan, I said, what are you going to do to take that little hood off your head? He said, we're going to become politicians and police officers, and we're going to dictate legislation to keep you down. And then that's what really inspired me to do my nonprofit, because you were changing the school system and no one was paying attention to what was happening, and they were dumbing down these kids. And so we had so many kids that was at 80% not going to college that didn't understand how to count money, didn't understand how to do certain things. So I learned in life, the more you give back, the more God blesses you and multiply. So I met Mr. H.J. Russell. I went into his office. He said, Maceo, tell me what you do. I said, I do alarm systems. It didn't take him less than 15 minutes. He pulled in his vice president. He said, all the properties that we have on H.J. Russell, we're going to give them all over to System 5 Electronics. And then I met the ARA members. And before I know it, I started meeting all these gentlemen on the golf course, because most business deals was cut on the golf course. And now I had contracts all over the state of Georgia. Now we cover the entire state of Georgia with contracts. I have 28 employees. My building is 30,000 square feet. And we have just taken off from there. So it's kind of history in the making from that point. I know I can keep going and talking, but that's how I built my company, System 5 Electronics. So I want to give people a chance to talk if they want to.
Yes, that was amazing. I can't even express how many nuggets you dropped in there. I hope people took notes. I was writing notes like crazy, but more just the inspiration of your story, because what it seems like, it comes from your heart. Yeah. It was a journey, but everything you did had a purpose. Like, you knew what you were doing and why you were doing it. And I think that is what inspired you to keep going on and get better and better and better. You knew why you were reaching back out to the kids. You knew why you were getting into the next industry. So that was phenomenal. I was asking for people to drop some questions, because to have the opportunity to have someone like you speaking to us is amazing. I did want to ask, because I know Charmaine had said about she didn't know you were actually doing some of the work in the wiring, but it sounds like you started from the beginning. You knew what you knew. You weren't.
It became a passion, and I tell anyone, when you start a business, you're gifted with something. God has gifted all of us with something, and you have to know what that passion is. And when you follow your passion, then everything opens up for you because that's your passion.
That's what it sounded like. It opened up because you started with the right thinking. I know Dr. Lori was talking about the mindset being your mindset being so powerful. If you can, well, two things. I'd like you to make sure you let people know how they can support Maceo's foundation and organization. I don't want to leave without people knowing that this is an amazing opportunity. I know that my husband and I are participating on October 25th.
Right.
Excited about that, but I want people to know how they can help.
Right. October 25th is at Mirror Lakes, and you can call us here at 404-756-0736, extension 115, and speak to Lisa Smith, or you can go to maceoskids.org. And what we're doing is, there again, we're giving back to kids and helping them to have that jump start to get into school, and then showing them the alternative jobs, all the different jobs that you can do. So we definitely want you to call us today and participate in that, because the more you give back, the more it comes back. We're 501c3, and we want to make sure that everybody knows 404-756-0736, and just make a difference. I mean, when you look at us as a nationality, I did this thing in 2014 where, blacks make up 48 million, the Asians make up 14 million, whites make up 244 million, blacks make up 39 million. We spending $910 billion. The Hispanics are spending $978 billion. The Asians are spending $509 billion. White Americans spending $9 trillion. But here we are now. The Asians are spending $506 billion. They're spending 99% of their money with each other. The Hispanics now are spending 36% of their money with each other, $350 billion. And here we are as African Americans, we only spend $136 million, which makes up 15% of our money. So once we learn to recycle that dollar like they did in Black Wall Street that was held from us, and we didn't really understand how we can pull ourselves up as a people to make sure that we all flourish through this world and generate income for everybody, we've got to learn to recycle the black dollar and make a big difference. So, we cover the state of Georgia at System 5 Electronics. We use smart technology. We control your lights, your locks, your thermostats, your image sensors, all of the new technology, facial recognition. All of our cameras are encrypted, so you don't have to worry about someone logging in, talking to your child over the cameras. I only use the best because I learned as a black business owner, I want to make sure all of my customers get the best product that's out there. And that's what I stand for. And I make sure that I'm open to my customers. So if anyone that works for me make a mistake, you can pick up the phone and you can talk to a Maceo Brown, where Ackerman or ADT, you never can get to the owner of the company. But in my company, I tell my employees, if they ask to speak to the owner, I want you to write it down, put it on the sticky, and I will call that person back.
Love it. Love it. And I like your sticky method. You know what? Let's keep it real. Let's be able to speak to people and connect with them. I know that our time is up. This was amazing. We will all be able to connect with each other. I know Charmaine will be sharing about how we can do that. Let's support Mr. Brown, his organization, his business, and what he's doing in the community. Oh, it says Charmaine is saying you have time. You can keep going. Well, I know there's some other sessions going up. I'm open. I'm pretty free, but so Mr. Brown, do you have like maybe another 10 minutes if you want to share a few other things that you didn't get up to?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't have a business plan when I came up. So I knew the credit cards. I aligned myself with people that are much older than me. I mean, those are key points. You want to work in the industry that you're looking to become. So you want to get into that business so you can have an experience in there before you jump into a business. And you listen to people like Dr. Martin Luther King. He says it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're a street sweeper or whatever, just be the best that you can possibly be in doing that job. That stuck with me as a kid. So when I used to wash pots and pans and stuff, I'd take that Brillo pad and make those things spotless. That chef says, I'm going to move you up to the seafood station. Mm-hmm. Then I want to move you up. I want you to go to culinary arts. I say, well, I'm just here to do this as a part-time job because I purchased my first car at 16. I bought my first house at 21. So, I took all the money that I saved and I invested it back into myself and my business. So I tell people, Take your money that you're making. Don't go out and buy all the fancy cars and all these luxury things. Build your company to where it gets to such a point where you have so much money coming in, then you can enjoy the life that you want to love. Because, we teach ourselves that the age between 1 and 21 or 23 is our learning stages of life. Between 21 and 45 is our making money stages of life. And then once we get over 50, we want to enjoy life. So if you follow that and don't enjoy life early and spend all your money when you get to a certain age in life, then you can afford what you want to afford. It's a big blessing, to own a home in several different states. I mean, we had a home in Costa Rica. It's such a blessing to be able to do that at this stage in my life because, the struggle is in the beginning stages. And you got to struggle to become something if you're going to be out there and motivate yourself. I do a lot of inspiration when I wake up in the morning. Even I had cancer. I had stage 4 cancer. I tell people this story right here, because stage 4 cancer is a lot with what you eat. And I learned to get into a vegan diet. I looked up Dr. Sabi. I went into a vegan diet. I ate raw vegetables, cooked vegetables, and just fruits and vegetables. And my cancer cells started shrinking. My doctor could not believe. He was trying to figure out what was going on. He gave me 2 years to live. And I'm 9 years now. I'm still standing. So it's all in what you eat. I tell people, don't put regular gas into the tank. Put high test. What I'm saying? Get you some high test.
Thank you, Maceo.
Awesome.
That was fabulous. I just had to come in and personally thank you
Well, I
for
appreciate that.
that amazing backstory, because what that does for me, hearing how my previous generation, what they had to go through, what they had to encounter, the obstacles just to kind of make it. And here it is, you were able to persevere. You were able to create this business on 3 credit cards, and you are now a multi-millionaire business. And it lets us the younger generation know to appreciate that maybe what we're experiencing may not be so bad, because
That's
you
right.
had so much other things that were coming against you
Mm-hmm.
in, in every angle and in every direction. So we appreciate the backstory. We appreciate your story of how you build it. I want to close by asking you, if you were to think of all the tips and secrets that you just gave us, what would be the top 3 things that small business owners who are watching you right now when we listen to this, would you say they would need to do to go and get their business to become a multi-million-dollar business? Like, and if it's not 3, but in a checklist,
Right,
that
right,
kind of
right,
like,
right.
go, I don't know.
Research the business, see if it's a recession proof type of business. You don't want to get into a business that has so many people doing it and you have so many challenges in trying to compete
Good.
with all these other businesses. You don't want to do it. Align yourself with positive people. It's
Yes.
so important to
Angels
align
are
yourself with
networking,
positive
Maceo.
people. And network
Angels
is
are
right. The
networking.
networking is key right
Work
there.
with the angels,
You want
yes.
to do as much of that as possible.
Okay.
And you want to make sure you reinvest back into your business. Continue to reinvest, but learn from your CPA. I have a top CPA that's a tax attorney,
Ah,
and you don't pay taxes for the first 5 years. If you're paying taxes in the first 5 years, you have a problem. Okay,
woo.
so find you a CPA that knows how to get with you in October and November and say, where are we from a tax standpoint? Okay, now what do I need to do to make sure I don't pay Uncle Sam? Okay, let's reinvest. Let's buy new computers. Let's buy some new cars. Let's renovate the
I
building.
thought you said
Let's do
not to
something.
get new cars. Earlier before this, you said not to use spend the money on things.
Well, I mean, when I mean that is, I mean new trucks. Like, you got to
Oh,
keep
okay.
your fleet
Business,
up and going,
business,
right? Yeah,
business.
my fleet turns over every 5 years because our drivers drive so much. We put a lot of mileage on a lot of our vehicles.
Yeah.
So right now we're getting set up to now where we want to put solar panels on the top of our building so we become energy efficient.
Yeah.
So we want to have our own solar panels. We want to go to total battery cars. We want to go electric cars. So in the next 3 years, I want my fleet to be total electric. I don't
Great.
want them because right now, you look at the fuel cost now, $25 a gallon or something like that. I mean, it's high in certain areas. That's ridiculous. So if you're running a fleet of vehicles and you're going from one area to the next, that's going to spend a lot of money. With me, I make sure that everything is a GPS tracking device inside the system. I make sure my service department understands that the driver leaves from their home to the closest job. He routes himself, and then you reroute him back to his house. So that means when he stops at all these locations, when he finished that last job, he's close back to his house, and we're saving on the fuel. So you have to make sure that when you manage people, we listen to the telephone calls. Everything is recorded for quality assurance. I want to know what you're saying, how you're saying it. And then I make sure people are rewarded on referrals. You got to give back to your customers. Pay them for referring people to you. That is big for me. So spend a lot of money on TV and radio. Spend that money on the customer, because the best referral is the customer referral. And when my sales rep go in and they sell someone and say, I was referred by Miss Smith or Miss Jones, chances are they're going to write that deal 99% of the time. When someone says, I Googled you, then they're going to spend all day trying to figure out who you are. That's not a good lead. The good lead is the customer referral. Build from your base.
Good.
Blow it up from there.
All right. So those were all good. I could relate to them. So that was the general top 3 or 4 tips. Specifically now on the financing and the investing with the credit cards. In today's market with the high interest rate and how to do the credit cards, so are they going to run up all 3 cards? Like, what do they do?
American Express. I only use American Express.
Okay. See, got that out of you.
The moment I get an invoice, I pay it off.
Okay.
The moment I get an invoice, I pay it off, and then I have all these points that I have built up. Okay. So I'm not paying interest on the credit cards because I'm paying them off immediately before the 30 days. See, credit card companies want you to get past 30 days so they can start charging you interest. If you play the cards right and you pay it off beforehand, then you build up your cash flow much faster. So you're able to float the money and then go ahead and then turn it around and then move from there. So when we travel free. When we stay in a hotel, we stay free.
Right.
So we're not wasting any money because everything is reward points. Right. And you give back to your employees. Employees, I create a home environment. Your employees need to feel like it's family based. We celebrate everybody's birthday. We celebrate Christmas together. We celebrate Thanksgiving together. We do things as a family around here.
You celebrate
that's what makes people just feel good about it.
You celebrate Thanksgiving with
my employees. We pick 3 days before Thanksgiving, and we have a Thanksgiving here at System 5 Electronics. A week before Christmas, we're doing Christmas. And then when you get with your CPA, there again, if you're very profitable, then cut bonus checks for your employees. Give them a big bonus check. Let them feel like they're going to get a part of the apple. Because if they get a part of the apple, they're going to work hard for you the next year and next year. Absolutely. I always say it's not my money, it's God's money.
Yeah.
So it's up to me to give the money to the people that work for me, and then they're going to stay there and work hard for you all the time because they know if they've done well at the end of the year, and you don't give it to them before Christmas, you give it to them after Christmas.
Oh, really? Why
you don't want them to waste the money. And I told them, I don't want you wasting this money. I'm going to give you your bonus after Christmas. After Christmas, then I'm gonna give you your check. I'm not gonna give it to you before because I know you may go out there and scrum.
I don't know if I like that. I mean, you want people to be happy on Christmas.
Well, you know what? I hear his philosophy. He's thinking long term, right? Long term is we want to do right by people, and sometimes they may not have the discipline yet.
That's right.
To do right. And so he's teaching them, actually, it's a major life lesson, teaching them delayed gratification and using that money in a way that's going to hopefully benefit them in the long term. So I hear you, Charmaine.
Look at the stock market. The stock market. Look when the economy tanked. When the coronavirus hit, I made more money during the coronavirus because everybody was at home and they wanted to upgrade their security systems. So we was out just putting systems in, everybody upgrading the system. Now the stock market had went down, so you had Delta, you had Ford, you had all these car companies where stocks was just a little amount of money. You invest all of your profits into these major companies, and then before you know it, where we are right now, you quadruple all of your money because the money is made in the stock market. If you pick the right companies that's stable, that's out there, then you got other ways of making additional income. So, just be careful in what you're doing. I'm not going to try to encourage everybody to go to the stock market because you got to be very careful how you do that. But you know, it's good companies that's out there. Look at Amazon. I mean, look, no one would have ever thought Amazon would have started from where they are now. Look what the cost of a stock is for Amazon. That's a lot of money to be made.
So Maceo, it gave us a few minutes extra time, which is wonderful because you really enlightened us with some other nuggets. I think Dr. Kelly may need to have to go for Dr. Rudy's.
Yeah. But come out to my golf tournament. You know, make sure you come out there because I have a chairman's box. So you don't have to play golf. You come out there and you meet CEOs. You got to remember the acronym for it is Mentoring Aspiring CEOs. And that spells Maceo's Kids. So if you come out to my golf tournament, it's $125 a person to come out. You get to meet the CEOs you would never be in front of, like a H.J. Russell or C.D. Moody or all these big other construction companies, or these owners of these franchises, like a John Hurt or someone like that. You would see them out on the golf courses because these are CEOs. So I bring CEOs out to my golf tournament, and people come out there to have that 10 or 15 minutes to set up a booth on the hole to be able to mingle with these top CEOs. They would have never had the opportunity to do that and have fun doing it. So, you know, you bring your products and services out there, and you can set up, and everybody who knows who you are. So just reach out.
You bring your products to and set up out there?
That's right. We put you on a different hole. Everybody's on 18 holes. We put a company on every 18 holes.
Wow. Oh,
we have someone there. So you have 15 minutes, or you actually have about 6 minutes before that golfer gets ready to tee back off again to pitch your product. So now you can pitch that product in 5 minutes or so to where you can kind of reach it from there. So that's really, really important. If you can come out to that golf course, because I like to give back. I like to make it where people can understand, how do you make money? I'm going to teach you how to make money. I got an organization called the CEO Roundtable where I bring all Black businesses together, and we learn how to network with each other, and we buy from each other. So look at that. We'll be kicking that off right after this golf tournament, CEO of Atlanta. So just really pay attention to that. But call us here at the office, and we'll give you more information.
Okay, Maceo, thank you. Jeez,
I know I'm a quick talker. I'm so sorry.
It's getting better and better, but I want to make sure I formally and officially tell you that it was an honor to have you. And I know you and I are going to be doing some wonderful connections. My husband is already coming to the golf tournament.
Excellent.
And with my neighbor, Ricardo, who's in my neighborhood. And I know Dr. Kelly and her husband are also part of the chairman.
Excellent.
So for all the viewers, as I close, I thank you for being here to listen to Maceo Brown's story. I thank you, Lisa, if you can hear me. I appreciate everything you did to help get him set up technology-wise. And I encourage each and every one of you. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. I hope you, got a chance to meet Maceo and everything.
I appreciate both of y'all.
And guys, the next sessions are going to be starting at 2 o'clock. Please jump over to the sessions and support them. And I enjoy having you here for the Angels Business Summit. Visit the website, www.angelsrnetworking.com, and feel free to schedule some time with me. I love to have some one-on-one with you. And don't forget, there's networking. That's going to be available with everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Kelly. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.